Welcome to News 9 Live and you are watching On Point with me. Before I introduce you to today's On Points, let's take a quick look at the headlines. Israel carries out precision strikes in Beirut to target senior Hezbollah leader. Karnataka withdraws general consent to CBI to investigate cases in the state amid Muda Rao alleges CBI is biased. Kumari Selja shares the stage with Bhupinder Singh Hooda, says Congress will form government in Haryana. BMC to probe the death of woman who drowned in storm water drain in Mumbai. Himachal government distances itself from Minister Vikramaditya Singh's eateries must display owner's ID. Remark: government says no such order has been passed yet. President Murmu visits Siachen base camp. Amid the Laddu Rao, Jagan Mohan Reddy says he'll visit Tirupati on Saturday. BJP asks him to declare his faith before entering the temple. Over 50 drugs including paracetamol, not of standard quality, says Central Drug Regulator in the latest report. Hurricane Helene threatens Florida with fatal storm surge and deadly winds. Welcome. On today's On Point, we will discuss the press release issued by two senior-most officers in Manipur. It has sparked a larger debate. I will come to it a little later. But first, let me take you through the chain of events. The intelligence input on 900 kuki-militants entering Manipur from Myanmar had led to tension in the state. The input created anxiety in both communities. This input was shared in a press conference by the Security Advisor Kuldiep Singh. Let me first play out the bite to put in the context.
Being shared with different intelligence agencies also, because they have to develop it, because once 900 people are coming in a group of 30 each or less than 30 or more than 30, they will definitely go somewhere, halt somewhere, they will need food and shelter. So all these kind of inputs from various agencies, various intelligence agencies will have to be gathered, and wherever we find that this kind of people are roaming around, that area has to be cordoned off, combing operations have to be done, and then immediately we go ahead with that. Unless until it is proved wrong, we believe that it is 100% correct. Because any intelligence input, you have to take 100% correct and prepare for that. If doesn't come true, then there are two things. Either it didn't happen at all, or because of your efforts it didn't happen. Because you can't take lightly that, oh, ये तो ऐसे ही होगा. अगर ऐसे ही करोगे, कहीं गड़बड़ हो जाएगा.
Sir, does the CM has his own intelligence network?
Does CM has his own intelligence? No. Question is not of intelligence. Yes, we are all CM's network. He is CM's network. He is ADG intelligence. Then what is intelligence? Intelligence is having connection with the people. Once you have connection with the people, lot of people share lot of things with you. So that becomes intelligence. Intelligence per se, only the intelligence person or intelligence agency or intelligence owner or head of the intelligence will only get intelligence is not correct. You can get intelligence, you all get intelligence, you share also number of times with us. आप रिपोर्टर लोगों को बहुत इंटेलिजेंस नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स मिल जाता है, तो ऐसा नहीं है, ये सीएम का ही इंटेलिजेंस नेटवर्क तो ये है बैठे हुए एडीजी इंटेलिजेंस.
This is basically what he had to say. On Wednesday, a press release was issued which was signed by both Mr. Kuldiep Singh and DGP Rajiv Singh. Let me read it out verbatim. The statement was, in the view of the recent reactions from different communities regarding input of infiltration of 900 trained kuki militants from Myanmar to carry out attacks on Meiteis on September 28th. It is clarified that the input was verified from different quarters, but it could not be substantiated on ground. There is no basis currently to believe in any such input. However, security forces deployed on the ground are placed on a high alert to protect lives and properties of citizens. All communities are assured of their safety. They are advised not to believe in any rumors or unverified information. Quote, close. Soon afterwards, another notification came into light, and let me read that notification also verbatim. It read, based on information gathered on the movement of armed groups, this office had shared intelligence input via U note number bearing 1252024 dated 16/9/2024 to enable police department to use its machinery and network to develop the said information so as to determine actionability. It is now ascertained that the possibility of any such misadventure by armed group is remote. The public need not worry further in this regard. So in both the releases, it is clarified that public should not be worrying about any misadventure on part of the miscreant. So both the statements was to reassure the public that nothing untoward will happen. Now what had happened prior to the statement was, and on which I also did a program, Cookies had called for a shutdown in panic, and Meitei organizations had petitioned defense and home ministers. Accusations and counter accusations floated in the air, and I am not going to get into it. I am not going to get into it. But the sharing of the intelligence and the specific date created an atmosphere which ratcheted up the temperature. So there are two questions in context of this, which I will be asking my panelists. One, was it important to share such a piece of information with public, necessary? Second, is jointness lacking in Manipur theatre? Indian Army today, Prime Minister, they all talk about jointness of command. Late General Bipin Rawat was working on the jointness of command. That was his mandate given by Prime Minister Modi. And third, which is very important, on which today's discussion is, because people who have come here thinking that there will be a discussion on two communities will be disappointed, because today's discussion is actually not on this. And I am saying this at the starting of my program. Today's discussion is on these 4 points. Is there a crisis with regard to reimagining Northeast? This is the discussion. So when I say reimagining Northeast, Northeast is often seen as a hand by a lot of experts, where a lot of experts say that all 5 fingers, which means all issues should be addressed together, not in silos or at different point of times. Is that the issue? That's the number one. Second, most of the movements in the region, most, I am not saying all, most, are embedded around culture and identity. Do we need to readjust and recalibrate our approach to deal with them? Third, there is an Adhocism. Prime Minister has tried his best to kill it. Yesterday, Bridget spoke about it. I am not going to get into it, what all measures PM Modi had taken. But when I say Adhocism, I am talking about standalone agreements, standalone ceasefires. Do we require a new or holistic approach? And lastly, which my friend Suhas, who is not here with me in the show, always says, that if you look at Northeast historically, it has a connection with Bay of Bengal. Its connection with the mainland India was cultural, but economically it was far more connected with the economy of Bay of Bengal, and because of unstable Myanmar and Bangladesh, has the economic aspiration of the people of Northeast being dented, adding to this. And I am very happy to say that on these 4 points and the 5, I am joined by Professor Oinam Bhagat from JNU. I am also joined by Lieutenant General, former DG Assam Rifles, Rameshwar Roy, I'm joined by Hijang Misal, social activist, and I'll also be joined by, subsequently later, B.L. Vora, former Home Secretary and former DGP Manipur. I'll first come to Professor Bhagat. So my question to you is, do we really need to reimagine Northeast in a fresh light, sir?
See, the way we had been talking in the last 1.5 years is as if the state of Manipur, so to speak about the Northeast, we have all been talking about Manipur as if Manipur is Northeast, and all for bad reasons, as if Manipur has nothing to give but conflict and conflict alone. And even that theater of conflict is played out by two players, Meiteis and Kukis, in the last 1.5 years. One thing is, conflict is not the nomenclature of Manipur. Yes, there has been conflict, but where has not there been conflicts all across? We have to look beyond conflicts, that is one. But even if we look at the merit of the contemporary, the conflict that we are talking about, without talking about the Nagas, we cannot even think of settling this issue of Kukis and the Meiteis. So there is, even when we talk about the conflict, we have to see different stakeholders, their demands, their aspirations, and not to listen to only one story, but all those stories have to come to the same platform where it has to be shared, because the whole conflict is because of the contradiction of the stories. My story is unacceptable to the others story is acceptable to me. So the only way is different stories have to come together, and conflict is not the only thing that we know of the Northeast. I will put it like this.
Beautifully you have put it. Let me go across to General Roy. And you stay with me, Professor Bhagat. I know you are not well. I'm very thankful to you that despite not being well, you are there with me. So thank you. Just be patient with me. You are a very strong and a sane voice. General Roy, your comments on the 5 fingers and all the issues of Northeast to be addressed together. Do we have to look at Northeast like this? Is the problem there? If you're getting my question, sir?
Yes, Karthikeya, I have got your question.
Okay.
And I would compliment Professor from JNU. He's been bang on when he has spoken of that the problem of Manipur or any other state in the Northeast can never be seen or must not be seen in isolation. And why do I say so? In fact, there are total of 7 states if we start with Sikkim. So we can talk of all the 7 sisters. You see, the main issue here is that the entire existence of northeastern states, when you see individually as to what problem do they have basically, and then you try to connect. Here the issue is nothing to do with any kind of secessionist movement as has happened in J&K. Here the main issue is their cultural identity of various tribes when they feel threatened that needs to be protected. The basic issue here is that the northeastern states have a demographic spillover in each of their states within India, and there are spillovers across into Myanmar also. And that is how the Myanmar reference keeps coming time and again. The issue right from the beginning has been dealt with as a security issue and not as an issue which requires confidence of the administration which is governing the states of Northeast with the people in a manner that they do not feel threatened, that their cultural identities would be submerged. If that assurance can be given to them, they have no bigger demand than this, including Nagaland, who has been talking of Nagalim, a greater Nagaland for a long, long time, ever since, I would say, pre-independence day, since 45 onwards. But even they now do not insist on such a demand. All that they want is, within the constitutional framework of India, each of these states need an assurance that their cultural identity and existence would be well protected. And for that, the administration in each of these states need to have a very proactive approach, a very passionate approach, and a very, I would say, people-friendly, involved approach. Kartikeya, let me tell you my first contact with Northeast started with Arunachal Pradesh in 1975. Thereafter, next contact was in 1988. Then I again went to Northeast on posting in 2005-06. And finally, I was there in 2010, 11, and 12. Therefore, I have seen the shades of these changing perceptions about northeastern states, which from the administrative point of view, it has slowly slided into a security situation. And that is not the good way of looking at this problem which is there.
Okay.
And presently, what is going on in Manipur for the last about a year and a half, as if Manipur alone is the only state in the Northeast. And this is where I say that they need to be dealt with like fingers of a hand.
Correct.
Hand has 5 fingers, here there are 7 of them. 7 means we can leave out Sikkim for the time being, but let's say 6 fingers. There, in Hindi we have a word called changur. Some people have 6 fingers in the hand also. So unless you deal with all the fingers together, I don't think we'll be able to enhance the strength that lies in these states like a fist of a hand. And that is my plea, and that is what I have seen.
Okay.
Individually, these people.
So I'll come to it, because let me take the opening comments from everyone. Let me take the Misao, your opening comments. Reimagining the Northeast, then I'll come to other specifics.
Kartikeya, I would say the northeastern states, how the people from the outside, those are not part of the northeastern states, perceive. I was really saddened to see that numbers of people, renowned people who are well known, consider the entire Northeast as one state. That also needs to be understood. And I would tell them, Northeast states comprises of 7 states and 1 brother, that is Sikkim. And these 7 states, as we were also comparing with the fingers, 5 fingers, I think there are certain levels of similarities, and also we need to also understand the differences. The 5 fingers, they all together belong as fingers, but we need to understand they are fingers taller, shorter. And the problems of each state, somebody is saying that cannot be seen as isolation, but I think the problem of each state should be seen specifically, uniquely, and that accordingly one has to deal. Now, if you look at the entire Northeast state, except Tripura and Manipur, the other states were part of Assam once. This Manipur and Tripura were once princely states which merged to India, especially Manipur in 1949. So the problem, or how we need to recalibrate or see from different perspectives, it's important. But one needs to understand the people who are inhabiting this part of India, to some extent, share some kind of affinity, cultural similarity, certain level of bonding, but at the same time, the cultural identity that needs to be protected, that needs to be identified, which each community is seeking. I think that also has to
Misao,
be
one
understood
more
and taken into
specific
account.
question to you. After this press release, do you think that the tension has come down, and will the shutdown take place on the 28th? With this two press releases, a specific question: has the tension come down in Manipur?
Kartik, in this specific question, I would say dots needs to be connected, and one incident cannot be seen as an isolation. After the Chief Minister Office has issued this misleading information, the tension is very high. Even I am now in Manipur, in Kangpokpi, and we are strictly told not to venture out tomorrow till 28. Despite the press release made by the Security Advisor and the DGP, I think damage has been already done. When I'm saying damage, the panic, the spread, the lie or the misinformation which has already been doing round in social media has created certain level of insecurity, panics, and the people, both the community, the cookies and the meiteis are like getting up to that level to face any eventuality that's coming.
As I discussed with you, Misao, today's main discussion would be on the 4 points which I said, but I am not going to also let go of an issue which is the mainframe of what has happened in last 24 hours. We will address it. I'll go to first Professor Bhagat and then Brijesh. Professor Bhagat, a very specific question: was it really important to share such an information? How do you put it in perspective?
Yeah, see, let me begin with a lighter note.
Okay.
Every day when I open my WhatsApp, last 2 days I have stopped doing that, so I could write some serious academic work. Otherwise, hours and hours get sucked into this counter allegations.
Don't forget to send it to me, sir. Send it to me, I'll read it.
Sure. So, every group, every civil society groups, individuals, even politicians are great player of this, what you call this game of information sharing and all this propaganda that has been done. But what is surprising is coming from an IPS officer, such kind of a statement, which I felt could have been waited, avoided for a while, though I have all my regards for the what you call Chief Security Advisor when he said a very academically profound statement that every intelligence input has to be taken very seriously. And these informations have to be seen as true unless proven otherwise. And this is, Kartik, what science theorizing does, that you, based on the informations, you arrive at a conclusion, right? And that conclusion is a scientific knowledge as long as that knowledge is proven to be wrong. So to that extent, you take an information very seriously, is well taken. But my hunch, because subsequent to the press conference that he conducted, there was a tweet by the Red Shield of Assam Rifles, which was equally uncalled for. So why should Assam Rifles write out in Twitter in response to the press conference? That seems to be the crux, the second point you initially said, that is it that the unified command is not unified enough? Because prior to reaching out to the public, this should have been shared by all the security stakeholders, army, paramilitary forces, police, together. Forget about the politicians. Forget about Chief Minister's office even. But we have to take, security officers very seriously. So I somewhere have this hunch that enough exercise has not been done before coming out to the public. So almost it's like they have also joined.
So I think you are talking about the tweet of the Spear Corps.
Not only the tweet, but also
Spear
even
Corps.
the
It is
press.
Spear Corps. It was a Spear Corps.
Yeah, sorry.
It was not,
Yes.
please let me clarify, it is not Assam
Uh-huh.
rifle, it was a
It was
spear corps.
Yeah.
And I
Sorry.
think, please, once that, it's spear corps. And secondly, yes, please complete, yeah. Please complete.
And not only the Twitter, but also the press conference. Perhaps had they waited for 1 or 2 more days and have a much more deeper discussion among the security officials, this should not have been taken so lightly by the public now, because there was some kind of a panic across the communities. And then suddenly this statement by the 2 officers, this could have been avoided. That is my strong feeling. So far as the number of people coming, 900,000 or 2,000, it doesn't really matter much. Because if you look at the last year, the kind of influx of armed infiltrators, which were much, much higher, the kind of the quantum of conflict, gunfight that have taken place across the Manipur. So this 900 is still much lesser than what might have been the number. So I'm not so much bothered about how many are coming in. In any case, people are coming in and out of Myanmar and India.
My biggest fear is I have got great respect for the institutions. I have great respect for Indian Army. I have great respect for Assam Rifles. I have got great respect for the police there. In this whole thing, the institutions have got mired. My worry as a journalist is that all these institutions are above individuals and people. Institutions have a history, they have a rich legacy, and they are welded in patriotism. Us, part of it, Brijesh, cannot be the whole. But anyway, I don't want to go there because that's not the discussion. Your opening comment, sorry I couldn't come to you, on the letter which was released yesterday.
See, Karthikeya, there are 2 issues there, and both are fundamentally very baffling for me. A, what provided the basis of such input? What kind of intelligence went into? Did the Chief Minister's office had a very, solid input that this is what is happening, and it was shared with the Chief Security Advisor, the Security Advisor to the state government, and then subsequently the press conference was held. Who asked for the press conference to be held? Because honestly speaking, if you ask me, if you have an int and if you are a force, then you would want to solve the int first by yourself. You would want to go into the details of the int, and then you would also want to see whether there is any merit in the intelligence or not. Whatever Kuldiep Singh said is something which is first done and then told. So I would be asking, if I have to ask a question, I would be asking, then who asked for that press conference to take place? Because what happened during that press conference and what happened because of that press conference was that it created panic. Big panic inside, both ethnicities, Meiteis as well as Kukis. Kukis were called for, complete shutdown, and nobody is going to venture out. The second part is, how quickly did you decided that there was no merit in the intelligence which was issued? And I think, honestly speaking, it has put the entire security apparatus in a very, very poor light.
Okay, Mr. Roy, your comments on this, and then we come back to the second part, which is Adhocism.
I must compliment Brijesh. He is bang on that this information was unnecessarily shared in a press conference. Firstly, let me clarify. An information, when it gets processed, then that becomes intelligence. And that intelligence, further when details are worked out, then reaches the next level of actionable intelligence. Now, all these matters of intelligence are dealt with by the security agencies which are meant to act on this. Public has nothing to do with it. And I have operated in all these areas for all my career span. Never for once we try to put out any information in public domain which is likely to cause panic or likely to bring down the credibility of the security forces which are entrusted with the task of maintaining peace and tranquility in these areas. Therefore, it baffles my mind. And if you recollect, the other day when the program you had on this same very input of 900 kuki-meitei, I was very, very strong on this to say that this is absolutely uncalled for and such a thing must not be allowed. That is point number 1. The point two is that even if, be it as it may, there is no need to start questioning either the security forces or the security apparatus or the unified command or the way the operations are being conducted over there, because this can then just be best forgotten as one of those aberrations. But only sad part here is point number three, that such sad aberrations are coming too often and in quick succession. If you recollect, a couple of days back, it was the input regarding the UAVs. And it was said that the UAVs had fired on the people. Injuries were never close to explosive injuries. They were caused by the small arms. Therefore, that UAV information again was absolutely unverifiable. I would put it as maybe a false information. So my point here is that why are we trying to use this kind of information warfare, if I may put it in a small way, to further complicate the situation in Manipur rather than moving towards solving it. In between, I also heard a statement from one of the MLAs to say that the situation needs to be handed over to state police. Now, come on. If it is escalating, then army has always been the last resort.
Okay.
And army is the one which is also manning the Myanmar borders along with the Assam rifles. And therefore, operationally, if they are responsible and they are responsible for these unified actions, I see no reason whatsoever to have such loose statements being made or being brought into public domain.
Okay, so just let me just introduce Mr. Vora, former Home Secretary and DGP Manipur. Sir, thank you so much for making time. I know you really had a busy schedule, sir. I'll just take your opening comments. Do you think that this press release would assuage the feeling of the people in Manipur and bring the tension down, that 900 kuki-militant controversy which had happened? You were part of the show that day also.
I think if at all, Kartikeya, it will worsen the feelings of the people. They have made a laughing stock of themselves, everyone in the process. And I think it's a matter of great regret. I don't want to use any other harsh words, that these things happened. Even if they happen, it's okay, but these things are not shared in public domain. And everybody was sharing it. In fact, that day also, when we were discussing this, I was of the view that DGP or the Kuldiep Singh, the security advisor, shouldn't have gone to public on intelligence inputs. And now he has gone to say that it has not been verified, and now the CM also said that it's not there. What is it? Are these two different political parties fighting with each other? I think they brought disgrace to their office, both the sides, and even it shows Government of India in a very poor light, let me tell you honestly. I feel very anguished as an officer and as a citizen, let me tell you that.
Mr. Vora, yesterday, I was discussing end of militancy in Tripura. There was a special program which I did on Tripura. The militancy has ended in Mizoram. And, Mr. Roy Chaudhary had a very sort of powerful point Rameshwar Royji had made. Rameshwar Royji had made that, when he spoke about the five-finger approach, which means that you deal with all the problems together in Northeast. Are we lacking a larger imagination for entire Northeast, in which problems are not being handled together?
Let me first tell you, Mr. Kartikeya, about Tripura. I was DGP Tripura from 2000 to 2002, when insurgency was at its peak, and local police had taken the lead. There was no army there. There were just 3 battalions of the Assam Rifles. And it was good that the army wasn't there. The local police had to take the lead. And we were lucky. In 2 years' time, we were able to turn the corner decisively against them. It was a great success of the counterinsurgency operations led by the local police. And I wrote a book also on that success of the counterinsurgency operations. As far as police is concerned, next to Punjab, Tripura was a success story of the police. Now, in that case, now whatever was left over was remnants, which my distinguished successors removed that. I think these are now very, very few elements who were left here and there, who were doing all these things just for their wherewithal and nothing else. But having said that, yes, it's over. Now Tripura is peaceful, Mizoram you said is peaceful, Nagaland we have an agreement. Of course, there are other issues. Assam is doing much better. By and large, Northeast is doing very well, except for Manipur and for Nagaland a little bit. I'm sorry to say, Manipur, I think nobody is taking it seriously. I'm anxious to say again the same thing. I think that enough attention is not being paid. Last year, things started happening in May, as you know, it's more than 1 year, and things are becoming from bad to worse and worse to worst. I think it is time. In fact, it is already late. The full might of the Indian state must be there, full operation. And first of all, there should be president's rule immediately. And all these present incumbents, whether in the CM's office or the Security Advisor or the DGP or even Chief Secretary, everybody, all these people should be changed. And people from outside of proven competence, they should be taken. Now, diplomatically, we should be there. Now, in full effort with Myanmar, we know what's happening, China, Bangladesh, this, that, what they are doing. Economically, peace efforts. As I said, from all angles, top efforts must be made, including security measures, by the police, by the army, by the CRPF, by the Assam Rifles, by all these people. Now, unless all this is done, situation is not going to improve. And for God's sake, I think this kind of making themselves a laughing stock in public, revealing these reports in public, I think to stop all this, these people must be removed from there. I'm anxious saying so. They are my colleagues, competent colleagues. I don't know the circumstances under which they have done it, but it shouldn't have been done at all. And Chief Minister, I think, should have been changed long ago. I don't know what are the political compulsions of the central government. All that I can think of is, having served in those areas for more than a decade, I think Northeast is not a priority, Manipur is not a priority. Otherwise, do you think such a thing would have been allowed in any other state? No. So I think that my appeal will be to the central government to immediately take full charge of the whole thing and take action at its own level in all respects whatsoever.
No, you stay with me, sir. Let me be the devil's advocate, because Chief Minister says that the bottom line is that there's a demographic change, there's a poppy cultivation. He started a campaign against it, and he's becoming a target. But I will not debate that. But I'm just putting that perspective of Chief Minister Biren Singh in this conversation. But getting back to one very important thing, General Roy, is there adhocism in Northeast, sir? And then I'll come to Mr. Vora also. You know, standalone ceasefire, sir, standalone agreements here and there. Do you think this is a problem? This sort of an adhocism, sir?
Karthike, indeed there has been a problem for a long time now. We've been fighting this.
And does it affect Manipur also, this adhocism?
Manipur included. There has been adhocism in dealing with the northeastern states for a long time. And the best example of this I can give you is that prior to conduct of an election in a particular state, the state administration, along with the central administration, it goes into kind of some agreement with these various insurgent groups to have peace. And they indeed have those agreements. They conduct the elections very peacefully. And there will always be a splinter group out of these peace talks, which will not agree to this particular arrangement. And therefore, after elections, after the next government comes in, couple of months down the line, we find that the insurgency or the disturbances have gone back to where they were. And more those so-called people who were part of the peace agreement would go back to those people who were never part of the peace agreement. And this has been the arrangement which has been going on with each of these insurgent groups. There are, in fact, unverified reports that many a times even money has exchanged.
Sir, I'll ask you a direct question here, sir. Do you think that the SU agreement was ad hoc in nature? Please enlighten me. Was SU agreements? Ji, sir?
Absolutely. You see, there is no sense in having suspension of operations when these militants who are operating against the state, their weapons have not been taken back, their weapons have been deposited in a camp, they stay in a camp, and you are giving them ad hoc allowance to stay in the camp. Until today, even NSC and IM Muiwa, he is having his complete armed cadres in a camp where army and other security forces are not allowed closer to that camp. And they keep on having their annual parades. They keep the weapon there, having entire capability to go into violence once again as and when required. What kind of an arrangement is this? I think it's high time now that we are strong enough and insurgent groups have gone weak, so weak, that we should put this as the precondition that unless you leave the weapons, unless you join the mainstream, we are going to have no talks with you. And this has been the flaw in all these arrangements which have taken place. Even now, there will be huge amount of groups, even in Manipur for that matter, who have gone into suspension of operations, but yet they retain the cadres, they retain the weapons, they get a subsistence allowance. What kind of arrangement is this? I don't think there is any place for such arrangement as of now.
So that was the second part of it. There will be third and the fourth part. Mr. Vora, Adhocism, can I have your comments on the approach of Adhocism in Northeast?
Kartike, these things are inbuilt in the situations. It's very easy to find fault with it. When you talk to these groups, they do not immediately agree for surrender of everything because they have their own conditions. So I will not call it Adhocism. It's always a first step in the negotiations, which are always protracted. They take a lot of time. So it's not Adhocism at all. Because ultimately, see, there are two parties involved. So I will not say that. But yes, building on these initial agreements fast enough is the key to success. That has not been done either with NSC and IN or with the cookies and elsewhere also. So as I'll go back to what I said, lot of attention, immediate attention, full attention needs to be paid to these issues. It is very, very important. Because see, we are not here. You can't deal everything with the gun. Ultimately, they are your own people. They are not our enemies. You have to deal with the people. And security forces cannot solve issues. Issues have to be solved finally. Our job is to contain the violence. That is what we are all supposed to be doing. Now, Army, for example, has been in Manipur since I went there in Manipur in 1980, first as DIG. Later on, I was IG there, I was Home Secretary also there. Army has been there now almost 5 decades. But where are we? Then also insurgency was there in Manipur. Today also insurgency is there in Manipur. So the point is, see, these issues, the basic issues, now poppy cultivation you raised, I agree with the Chief Minister. That is the basic issue. That is why the whole issue started in Manipur. Because the drug lords, as you know, they are so powerful. They have so much of money. You know, Manipur is the tip of the Golden Triangle. This has been a route for decades and decades. Now, once the army rule in Myanmar, those guys put pressure. Many of these chins who were brethren of cookies, they moved out to Chudachandpur area. And poppy cultivation increased. And drug lords had enough money to finance it. So when the state government, and I must say, good work done by Biren Singh, well, when they tried to check it and identify those people, these people wanted to create trouble. And that High Court order, unfortunate, stating that Meiteis should be considered for the status of ST, considered only, that gave them a handle, and that was a trigger of the whole thing, and the situation has started bursting. And today it seems as if those guys are in charge. They're having rockets, they're having drones, God knows what's happening. And there are zones divided between cookies and Meiteis. So as I said, things have gone from bad to worse. It's already too late. So I think immediately action should be taken, and people in responsible positions should speak and behave very responsibly as far as public domain is concerned.
So how is it possible to do away with this buffer zone? Before I go back to General Roy, you know, we use the buffer zone. I find it very uncomfortable, you know. अपने ही देश में ये शब्द इस्तेमाल कर रहा हूँ, buffer zone. But
I agree with you. It is like this, Sam, Dam, Dand, Ved. Everything will have to be used. Force will have to be used. But then engaging with these guys will have to be used. Maybe some threats may work, maybe some incentives may work, maybe, there are so many things that can, state in its armory has so many arrows that they can use a lot of things to do it. And it must be done. Otherwise, going to become more difficult with the passage of time. I agree with you. It's a very uncomfortable situation, and they have some minor demands also, like you want a chopper service to that place, for example. They have difficulties. Essential commodities are not going. People are unable to get the medical attention that they want. Small little things. The Supreme Court had also made judges sit there, 3 of them, headed by a woman judge, as you know, that she was the chairperson of the committee. They have made a large number of recommendations. But I'm afraid not many of those recommendations have been implemented. Because people there are busy fighting their own local political wars and other wars. They're busy with that. That's why I go back to what I said initially. Let there be president's rule. And everything should be cohesive. A governor with experience of those areas should be posted there. Officers who are posted there, whether from army or police or bureaucracy, should be taken into confidence, and competent people must be posted. I think situation is getting so much out of hand, Karthike, that if it is not tackled soon enough, I'm afraid that it's going to be very, very difficult. Because then people's loyalty towards...
Okay, you made this point, so just bear with me. You made this point because, you made this point, before you came in, General Roy said one thing, which was the third part of the conversation, which says that in this region, there are a lot of movements around culture and identity, but we need to recalibrate our approach. So, before I go to General Roy, Misao, can there be a conversation without the demand of separate administration or without the demand of territorial disengagement? I mean to say, why can't there be a conversation? I want to know. I mean, so you are not sitting in Delhi and talking to me. I know you are in Manipur, and you move around in the areas, and you get me the proper feedback whenever I ask you.
Karthike, I wish you are in my shoe, then you would better understand why the demand for separate administration or the Union Territory with legislature is demanded by the Kuki people. I think I would say we never demanded any separation from the state government, the Manipur. Even the SOO had made it very clear. They had even are a signatory of saying that Manipur integrity will not be compromised. So why is these people coming to that level of demanding for separate administration? Is all because we are compelled and we are forced. And that's why I'm saying if you had been in my shoes, you would go more than what we demand. So that is something which every citizens or those people in power should also understand. I think that there should be certain level of empathy to the people. That's why we keep saying this is a structural violence, a systemic violence. Today, the whole problem is when we are saying our story, people hardly believe because we are such a minority and we don't control all the system. And those people who are controlling all the system, when they say something, the world believe it, the world subscribe it. Even now coming to that point, that's why I'm saying dot needs to be connected. Why the violence in Manipur is reaching to this scale is all because of misinformation, which started right away from 3rd May. There are also certain section of people who spread misinformation, lies, saying that numbers of Meitei girls who are doing their medical studies in
Susanpur. I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you, Misao, and that is why you are the voice whenever I hold this.
Yeah, Karthike, just let me also complete. That's why I keep saying in this talk show, we cannot understand why Meiteis have taken to these extreme steps of calling us illegal immigrant or some foreigners when our history is a proven fact saying that we never had any enmity. The cordial relationship between the
Meiteis
Kukis
call,
and the Meiteis.
not all Meiteis
Maharaja,
call
yeah.
cookies, some Meiteis, not all. I always say let's not other.
Kartikeya,
That is why I never use the word cookies.
Kartikeya, no, I'm not saying you are calling us. What I'm saying is when
Not
the
all
CSO,
I am not a
is
spokesperson of any
waging war
community.
on us, the CSO representing the entire Meitei community, that CSO is declaring war on us. At the same time, they are calling us narco-terrorists and illegal immigrants. And that's why I'm saying the cookies, we give our best for the welfare and development of Manipur, and we cannot understand why these things is being done.
Basically,
to
you are
us.
saying that I am
And
not
when-
in. Basically, you are saying, Visau, I am not in. ठीक है, आप बात है. I am not in your show. You are saying I am not in Manipur, so I don't understand the depth of the feeling of your
that's
community.
truly-
ठीक है,
that's truly.
मैं इस पे कोई अमराज नहीं लेता. You have that right to say, Brijesh. But that's a very emotional way which Visau has
but
put
that's
it.
that's also there. You know, only the wearer know where the shoe pinches. So there's not too much of argument about, you know, what one community feels about a particular situation, and you know what's your demand, which you feel legit, may be something which I feel completely you know, illegitimate. So that is always there in a conflict.
Okay. And lastly, General, you know, there is one more thing. You know, I'll only have a minute, but I think this is the point I think you should speak. Is it also because of the fact that Northeast is a shining example of patriotism and unity and diversity? But do you think that because of this instability in Myanmar and Bangladesh, its natural economic potential has been disrupted, which would have been there in its connection with Bay of Bengal? That is also adding, which was the fourth and the last point, sir?
Kartikeya, I don't think we should put too much of economic factor here, because in any case, all the northeastern states are maintained by remittances from the center to the approximately over 90%. This has been also one of the reasons why northeastern states remain on the boil, because economically we have not made efforts to make these states. In fact, there are many other states in India also where we not made those efforts to make the states economically viable in their own, as per their own earnings. And this is the least as far as the northeastern states are concerned. But getting back to this Manipur point regarding, what Misao was speaking about, the issue here is that, let me tell you, will be the only state where selectively Armed Forces Special Power Act was lifted from the Valley of Imphal many years back. And Imphal Valley retains about 60% of the population, largely the Meiteis, and hills have another 40% of population where you have the Kukis and the Nagas by and large. Now, this kind of existence, this kind of an arrangement could have been a trigger for today's situation where Meiteis have been pushed out on one side. I mean, the Kukis rather have been pushed out into the hills on one side. And Meiteis are consolidation. They have consolidated themselves into this area where Armed Forces Special Power Act does not apply. And this what has given them the long-term idea that why can't these two communities be separate? Whereas nobody is talking of Nagas, who are as much part of the population with the Kukis in the. So if this happens, maybe Nagas, would they ask for their own this thing and then try to say that let's be with the Nagaland? Because this also has been one of the points which has been coming up time and again with the Manipur administration. So I don't think that there is a iota of doubt in my mind that such an arrangement should be agreed to, although the trigger has started and I don't know how would the reconciliation happen.
Okay.
I think we keep myself restricted here due to the time constraints.
Oh, thank you. But I'm very happy that I was able to discuss all these 4 points with such a distinguished panel with you, sir, Mr. Vora, Misao, Brijesh. And I'm very happy to say that, you know, in future, we would have larger and broader debates on the issue of Northeast. Because, you know, Manipur is one part of Northeast. And we will be bringing you on News 9 the other issues, the broader issues, the larger issues, which are part and parcel of reimagining India's Northeast.